Welcome to a Sac Taff. Hope that you've had a good week. Just thinking about, because I like to, when I'm starting the podcast, I like to sort of share one or two stories, something that's happened in the week, that hopefully will encourage you, inspire you. And I remember when and I still am, selling my book, Taffy Howe, but it was a while ago. I used to say something like, hello, my name's Wilson Roberts. I can't remember the exact sentence, but I used to ask them, do you like reading? And most people would say yes. Most people would say no. It's sort of like not a very good question to ask, to be honest, because it's sort of like a closed question. It's going to encourage someone to give you a closed answer. But anyway, that's what I would say. And then occasionally someone would say, that's a bit of a stupid question to ask. Of course I like reading. Or something like that. And, you sort of think, if someone asks you a question, do you normally respond by saying, that's a stupid question to ask, or do you sometimes think it? It's like, but yeah. And then recently I met somebody, I think it was last week, and this person, I love it when people take my book and look at it, take it with so much respect and look at it with great interest, And she said to me that let me see because I've written it down actually. What she said was, she admires the fact that I've written a book, because I think something like she wanted to write a book. Whenever someone says to me they wanted to write a book, I would say it's never too late. It's never too late, because I know that I remember meeting somebody who said that her mother had started writing, and her mother was in her 80s, and she had written a really good book. And I'm sure there's a famous author that started writing later on in life and did really, really well. So I really always like to encourage people to say it's never too late. So basically she admires the fact that I'm getting out and putting myself out there. Which is really encouraging, it's nice when people appreciate what you're doing, And she said that you're doing something. She said to me, you're doing something that I would never have the guts to do. Yeah, and I thought, well, that's really, really encouraging. It encourages you to have. I'm not saying that I don't have self-worth, but I do. But sometimes when people see how you're selling the book, they can disrespect you, sort of thinking, well, she must be doing that way because the book's not any good, or this, that, what have you, And I chose to self-publish in the beginning with my very first book. I'm sure I shared. I did go to a few publishers, only a few, and then after getting more or less the same rejections, then I had one person who is more or less like a publisher stroke agent. He actually said, no, I thought about it. He was going to publish the book, then decided not to. Said, no problem, I've decided to self-publish. He did try to put me off from self-publishing, but I was like adamant, no, I'm going to, because my background sales and marketing, so I knew I could sell and market the book in a very basic way. I knew I could do it though. And since then I haven't looked back, and I've actually enjoyed the business side of it. I like having a large quantity of books, and you've got to figure out, whoa, how am I gonna distribute these books? How am I going to sell them? And as you see the books coming lower and lower, and you're selling more and more and more, it's so encouraging to see that. So I actually do enjoy the business side of it, to the point I came to the conclusion that I'm not looking for publishers. I actually like how I'm doing it. I know that I've got to start increasing sales and selling in a more professional way, but slowly but surely, but we'll see how it goes. But I am actually enjoying selling the book. I love meeting the people that I'm selling the book to. I enjoy getting the feedback back. It's nice meeting people who recognise me from years ago and tell me they really enjoyed the book. Are you writing any more? And so on and so forth. So yeah, but anyway, because I've started to read a few parts from A Sacrifice of a Lifetime, and I'm enjoying reading the book. Some of the sections I'm getting to, I'm just getting like a little twinge in my stomach. It's sort of like bringing back the past, but it's so good to see how far I've come. It's so good to see how far I've come. And so, like I've shared a little bit about my home life, my family life, my siblings. I've shared a little bit about my primary years, and I've got into my secondary school now, where last week I shared about how Rebecca went away with the school to Boulogne, and that's when sort of things started, you know, heading in the wrong direction because of what she experienced with her friends and so on and so forth. And yeah, so that's in the one that I shared last week. That was on the 17th of May. Just in case if you haven't seen it, you can go back and watch the video. But in between all of this, what was happening at home was in regards to her sister, Janice. I was going to say Janice, but Janice. So her sister, Janice, she's 8 years older than her, and she has been dating somebody. She's been going out with somebody and has got engaged. So she has a fiance, and his name's Howard. And he was a quiet man who lived only 5 minutes away from the Barracoons, but they had not only met him previously, although he and Janice had been courting for over a year before he proposed. So Mrs. Dantel, Howard's mother, helped by making the bridesmaids' dresses. Howard's niece was the other bridesmaid, which were going to be light blue with white frills embroidered on them. I remember the dress being white, but I think that must have been the dress I changed into for the reception. Yeah, so her daughters Mimi and Dee Dee helped her prepare the wedding cake, and Mr. and Mrs. Barrack were going to hire caterers for the reception on the big day. Right, so that's basically what was happening before Rebecca went on the school trip. And then it's got here that because I sort of wanted to share about the trip more before and then where's the following? It's got here how I had it all organised, and now what's happened? Let me see if I can get to the point where, yeah, so all right, so before the engagement, this is all back to front, isn't it? Yeah, so before the engagement, Janice, who's engaged to Howard, basically wanted to be part of the nursing profession. And she had been accepted in a nursing school. So she attended the school for a few months, but when her feelings for Howard became intense, she decided to drop out and get married. This is so her parents were trying to help her to postpone the wedding so that she could finish her training, which makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? So it's got here Mr. and Mrs. Barrack, who were unhappy with their daughter's decision and tried to persuade her to stay on, finish the course and take the exams to be a qualified nurse. So Janice telephoned them from the nursing school to let them know her decision. They visited her there, accompanied by Rebecca. I actually remember going there because they took me, and I remember going to the nursing home. Janice, have you really thought about this decision? Mr. Barrack asked. Yes, I have. I'm just fed up with this course and I want to leave and get married to Howard. You want to marry Howard? We've never met this Howard. We didn't even know you were dating Howard, said Mr. Barrack. Rebecca sat on the bed feeling slightly confused as she listened to their high-pitched voices. Howard is my boyfriend. I've been dating for a year now. Oh, have you? So why didn't you tell us about this, Howard? Because I wasn't sure if he was the one for me. And I suppose now you are? Yes. Look at you. You're only 21 years old and you are certain that this is the man that you want to spend the rest of your life with. Mrs. Barrack had remained silent until then, letting her husband do the initial talking. But Janice, she now said in a very calm voice, why don't you finish the course and do your exam so you'll be able to become a nurse? And then if you still want to get married, then when we meet him, and your father and I think you're both suited for each other, then maybe you'll be able to get married. Maybe then I'll be able to get married. I love Howard and he is suited. We are suited for each other. That's what you're saying now. But will you still think that way in the future, asked Mr. Barracu? Of course I will, replied Janice. There was nothing that her parents could do to persuade their daughter to change her mind. They did ask her to think seriously about what they had said in order to create a better future for herself. Janice did indeed think carefully about her parents' words, but decided that she wanted to get married. In the end, Mr. and Mrs. Barrack had no other choice but to accept her decision. Yeah, so that's the situation with the wedding. And I remember the wedding day and so on and so forth. And yeah, looking back, you do sort of realise that it is worth valuing what your parents say. It is worth valuing it, you know, because it made sense to finish off her nursing and then, you know, maybe think about getting married, because then at least you'd be qualified to be a nurse. So it actually did make sense. But anyway, she chose to do what she did. And this is how we learn. You know, you can, as parents, I guess you can only say so much. And then I guess she was an adult. Janice was an adult. And so she made her decision to get married. Yeah, so it's got here. In the meantime, preparations for Janice's wedding continued. When Rebecca saw her bridesmaid's dress, she was happy with the design. All she needed was something pretty to put on her hair. Mrs. Barracu took her shopping on a Saturday morning and bought her light blue hair slide to match the dress, which was decorated with white lace. Her mother also bought her a pair of white sandals and a cream dress. That's the one to change into following the wedding reception. So I really remember the cream dress, but I don't remember. I mean, reflecting back, I guess I could see myself in the blue dress, but that's not the one I remember. I remember the cream dress, you know. So Janice and Howard had already received a large number of wedding presents, which were safely placed in the front room. The wedding service began at 3 o'clock at St. Paul's Church, where the Barracu family worshipped. Mr. Barracu had hired a car especially for the occasion, which he decorated with a thick white ribbon draped in a V shape at the bonnet with cream carnations in one corner. "You look beautiful," he told his daughter. Janet smiled and looked down at her dress. "All thanks to Mum for lending me her dress," she said. "Yes, it definitely brings back precious memories," said Mr. Barracu. "Let's hope our marriage is as good as yours," said Janice. "Oh, don't worry, it will be." So Rebecca slowly came down the stairs in her bridesmaid's dress, as she had never worn such a dress before and did not want to trip up. "You look lovely," said Mr. Barracu, who was standing in the hallway. "Thank you," said Rebecca with a big smile. "You look really nice, Janice," said Rebecca. "Thanks," said Janice. Jack then appeared looking smart in his suit. "You look very handsome," said Mrs. Barracu. Bernice then came down the stairs wearing a dress that she sometimes wore to church. "You look nice, Bernice," said Mrs. Barracu. "Nice," whispered Janice to Rebecca, "but she's wearing black." Yeah, so there you go. So Mr. Barracu drove his eldest daughter to the church in a hired car. Mrs. Barracu used the family car to drive the other children to the church. Howard was already present, his best man standing beside him. The church was full of relatives from both sides of the family, giving the service great impact. This was the first wedding Rebecca had ever attended, and she was excited to be taking part as a bridesmaid. Yeah, so before Janice entered the main hall, Mrs. Barracu fixed her veil, making sure it was hanging down her dress correctly. "Does the dress look all right?" asked Janice. "You look beautiful in it," said her mother. Janice held on to Mr. Barracu's arm. The wedding march began, and the bride and her family slowly walked towards the front of the church, followed by the bridesmaids. When they reached the correct position, the music stopped. Janice stood beside Howard, handed Rebecca the posy of flowers. Howard had been admiring his bride from a distance and continued to look at her until the service began, when he turned towards the front of the church. Yeah, so yeah, Rebecca was so nervous that she could not stop her hands from shaking. As a result, the flowers Janice had given her, as well as the bridesmaids' flowers, which she was also holding, rustled continuously. And the other bridesmaid noticed this and turned towards Rebecca to tell her to stop crushing the flowers. This made Rebecca's nerves worse, which meant the flowers rustled even more. Yeah, so there you go. Yeah, so that was the wedding day. It was an enjoyable day. It was a lovely family day, and yeah, there you go. So Rebecca had told her form teacher that her sister was getting married, and but she hadn't. Rebecca didn't tell her friends this, and it wasn't until the Friday that the teacher asked Rebecca how the wedding day went. She said it went really well, and the teacher asked her to bring some pictures, and she did want to bring the pictures to show her teacher, but she didn't want her friends to see them because they didn't want, just in case they started mocking the dress she was wearing and the way that she was wearing her hair, because it was the same way she wore it in France when she went to France, but this time it was curled up a bit and combed back. And but so she didn't want to sort of get those memories ruined by their reaction. So there you go. So what do you think? Do you think that Janice went on to have a successful marriage? What do you think? Well, read the book and you'll find out. All I can say is it is good to listen to parents' advice, especially if you are studying.